Hi, welcome to lecture number 6, in which we will continue our study of the map basics. Yesterday we looked at the grid coordinate system, where you can find any place and label it on the Earth. Today we'll continue with map basics, but let's take a quick look at a slide you saw yesterday just for review. Oh, does that look familiar? That should look familiar. Okay, we talked about the Arctic Circle, which is down here. Oh, where's my pen? Arctic Circle, which is down here. This is that point where at least one day out of the year there will be no sunshine in one season, and then in the opposite season, at least one day out of the year, there will be total sunshine. We have the same thing up here with the Arctic Circle and the Antarctic Circle down there. We looked at the Tropic of Cancer right here and the Tropic of Capricorn right here. Remember, this is the line is determined by this is the point at which the sun will be directly overhead as far north or as far south. Okay, so up here, sun will never be directly overhead. It'll only be between here and here. Okay. So we have the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. And then, of course, we have right here the equator, which is the center of the Earth. That circle goes around there. And we also talked about the prime meridian, which goes like this. This is the line of longitude from which we begin counting the lines of longitude. This is 0 degrees, okay? Now, all of these are important because they help us to understand climatic zones. Climatic zones. You saw this slide yesterday, and I promised I would get back to it. Okay, we have 3 different zones. We have the frigid zone, and frigid sounds cold, doesn't it? Yes, well, it is frigid. That is up here at the very top of the world and at the very bottom of the world. These are the frigid zones right here and down here. Frigid means they're really cold. We have the tropics. The tropics are right here between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. These are the tropics. And what would you guess the temperature would be here? Well, of course, it is usually very hot, very humid here. Not everywhere. A lot of it depends on the currents, on the elevation of the land, all of that stuff. And the green zones are what we call the temperate zones, Okay, these are where it is, generally speaking, not as hot as the tropics, and generally speaking, not as cold as the frigid zones. Okay, so we have this temperate zone and this temperate zone. Now, I say generally because depending on where you are, it can be even colder than it is in the frigid zone. If you are up at the top of Mount Everest, because of the elevation, it's going to be very warm. I'm sorry, very cold. And of course, then there are lots of deserts in the temperate zones. It all depends on lots of other factors besides which zone you are in. Okay, so we have 2 frigid zones, 2 temperate zones, and the tropics in the middle. All right, let's take a look at where are we going to find tropical rainforests. And here's where you'll find them. Now, if you look and think back, where were the tropics? You will see that most of the rainforests are in the tropical zone. Okay, right through the middle section there. Okay, you've heard of the Amazon rainforest. Amazon right there. You've heard of Congo and how much rainforest is there. Borneo over here is one really wet place. these are the tropics. This is where you're going to find the preponderance of your rainforest. Now, there are exceptions, of course. Right up here in the Pacific Northwest, we have a rainforest. You go out on the west of Seattle, out there on the Cape, what's it called? Got out of my head. That's a rainforest, and it really is wet there, okay? But most of them you will find in the tropics. Okay. Let's take a look at the deserts. Where do you imagine you would find the deserts? Well, you will find some in the tropic zone. You've got the Sahara Desert, it's a big one. But you're always going to find them up in the temperate zones. You've got the famous Gobi Desert up in Asia. Gobi up here. You've got the Great Basin here, the Black Rock Desert. You got Chihuahua Desert down here in Mexico. The Atacama Desert, this is one of the driest places in the world, which seems so odd because it's right next to the Pacific Ocean, which of course is full of water. Nonetheless, that is the case. Most of the middle of Australia is a big desert. In fact, when they struck gold out here right in the middle, back in the late 1800s, they actually brought camels to Australia, thinking that, you know, that's how we could service the miners out there, gets the food and water in and gold out before the railroad was built. And I have heard that some of the camels are still out there running wild. Don't know if it's true or not, but I have heard references to it. Now, there's another big desert that you don't see on this map, and geographers will tell you that big desert is Antarctica. Now, wait a minute. Isn't there lots of water down there? Yes, there is, but it's all frozen. A desert is usable water, okay? There is a lack of usable water down there because, yeah, it's one big ice cube down there. So this is where you find the deserts. All right, let us press on and take a look at hemispheres. You know where the equator is. You know where the prime meridian is. Prime meridian goes north to south. Equator goes east to west or west to east. Okay. It is helpful to geographers to be able to divide the world into sections, and they decide to do that by hemispheres. And you can see on the map what we've got. So prime meridian right there. This is the Western Hemisphere. So this must be the Eastern Hemisphere, you bet. And we have the equator comes across here, divides the world into the Northern Hemisphere and the Southern Hemisphere. Okay? So remember those terms. We'll see those again from time to time as we go through the course. Okay, so the hemispheres. Let us press on to the next slide. I'm going to give you a little bit of vocabulary. Okay, a cartographer. Cartographer is a map maker. Okay? Cartography, the third one down, cartography is simply the science and practice of drawing maps. So a cartographer does cartography, easy stuff. Cardinal directions, you already know them, north, south, east, west. We've gone over those on our first lecture. Here's a definition of geography. I want to read this to you. A science that deals with the description, the distribution, and the interaction of the diverse physical, biological, and cultural features of the Earth's surface. All right, geography is not just looking at maps. Geography involves the culture of the people that live there, how the people interact with each other, distribution of mineral resources, weather. All of this stuff is lumped under geography. And then it's got the little Greek stuff, geo for earth, graph meaning to write. So we're going to write about the earth. And let's do some more geography or more vocabulary here. A key, a key is what tells you what is on the map. Now, there's all kinds of different maps. There's political maps, shows where cities are and state boundaries and roads and freeways, all of that stuff. Okay, a key will tell you that, hey, black roads, those are interstates. Red roads, those may be something else, like secondary roads, something like that. Gray might be gravel roads. The key will tell you how to read the map. The next one is scale. This is a relationship between that portion of the Earth that you're studying and the Earth as a whole. Every map will have a key. And then latitude and longitude, you already know about those. That is how we locate things on the surface of the Earth. So let's take a look at a map and find the key and the scale. Here's the key right down here at the bottom. Okay. Key right here tells us deserts, woodlands. Okay, so this map is telling us what's on the surface of the Earth. We don't see any cities here. We don't see any roads or anything like that. This is just telling us what topographically the terrain would look like. Okay, so tundra, that would be up here, tundra. And the green shows woodlands. All of this stuff is woodlands. So this tells us what we're looking at on the map. Now this part up here at the top, this is the scale of the map. This tells you distances. Okay, so 0 to 250, that little section right there. We go all the way over, that's 500 miles. So we take that section and we transfer it down here. So it's about 500 miles from here to here. The scale of the map tells you how far distances are on a map and are very, very useful. The scale of map can be written in different ways. Let's take a look at the three ways that you'll see map scale. Let's get rid of all this junk. This is the one we just saw. This is a linear scale. All you have to do to measure distance is you would take a little piece of paper, line it up against this scale, and make little tick marks. And then you take that piece of paper, put it down on your map, and you can measure how far it is between different things. Stated scale simply says 1 centimeter on the map is the same as 250 kilometers on the ground. And then ratio scale is pretty much like a stated scale. It's 1 to 25 million. Okay, that is it for today. Keep studying your maps. Remember that you need to know where all those places are. No, let's tell you what, let's do just a little bit more. Let's do a little bit more. Let me get rid of this stuff. I was going to skip the next part, but we might as well do it because this is such a short lesson today. This is just review. Major physical features. Well, what are the biggest physical features? Yeah, continents and oceans. Do you remember where they are? Note that this slide shows Australia and Oceania. Yeah, I just taught you Australia. Lots of geographers lump all the islands of the Pacific in with Australia. They call it Oceania. And here's that Southern Ocean that we talked about. Not going to be tested, but you know where it is. It's that area between the tip of South America and Africa down to Antarctica. Okay. Now, we've looked at the names. Let's look at where they are and see what you remember. Pacific, Atlantic, Indian. What's up here at the top? It's not on this map, but we know it's the Arctic Ocean. North America, South America, Africa, Europe, Asia, Australia and Oceania, and Antarctica down here. And then if you were interested in the Southern Ocean, it would be this down here. Okay. Finally, let me talk to you about regions. You will hear the word regions and you'll read the word regions. Continents, we know what those are. Regions cross over continents, okay? Regions have some similarity, whatever similarity you might be talking about, okay? You'll notice we have the Asia and Europe. We have Asia and Europe over here. What divides them? Who remembers? You said the Ural Mountains. Give yourself a pat on the head. Okay, Ural Mountain divides them. But look, as a region, they're all lumped together. Why are they all lumped together? Maybe it's race. Racially, they are all pretty much the same. We call this Eurasia. Europe and Asia, Eurasia. Okay? But look down here, Middle East is a region. There's no continent called the Middle East. It's a region. What do these people have in common? This is where you're going to find lots of desert. This is where you're going to find Muslim religion. You'll hear the Arabic language spoken, yeah, that's probably not a good example. But desert and the Muslim religion down here. So regions refer to specific things and can cross continents. Okay, that's probably enough for this lesson. Tomorrow's lesson, we are going to jump into our first continent. We're going to start taking a look at Africa, and we will start with Egypt and Libya. So have a great and wondrous day. We'll see you around campus.